Supertrainers are all the rage right now, but which one is the better option for you? Today we're going to be comparing the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 with the Asics Sonicblast. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Now if it's your first time watching one of my videos today, feel free to jump around to the various parts of this review. You may notice those timestamps below. If you do so though, please come back when you get a sec, watch the full thing, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. Now quick disclaimers and disclosures, I did receive both of these shoes for free for the purpose of review. That being said, I was not paid. I'm not obligated to create any specific content, not given talk tracks, talking points, and all thoughts are entirely my own. With that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of these shoes. Now, super trainers, plated trainers, it gets a little bit muddy nowadays. It's hard to know exactly what a shoe is built for, but for the most part, the plated trainer category is going to be putting shoes a little bit more in that tempo range. So these shoes are supposed to be pretty versatile, be able to handle some speed, and also be able to go long, and as such, that's how we're going to be talking about them today. Now from a price standpoint, the Hyperion Max 3 is $200 and the Sonicblast is $180. And typically I feel like price can give a little bit of a hint as to where shoes should kind of stand. With these, you know, usually your faster, more speed-oriented plated trainers are going to be in that 175 to 190 range, and then your more long run oriented are going to be in that 190 to like 210 range. So maybe gives a little bit of a hint, but I think that's just kind of where the market is going. We're seeing more and more just creep towards around that 200 mark in general. Now, from a fit or from a specs perspective, excuse me, the Sonicblast is 9 ounces, 255 grams, and the Hyperion Max 3 is 9.9 ounces or 280 grams. Meanwhile, from a stack height perspective, they're a little bit closer, with the Sonicblast coming in at 45 in the heel, 37 in the 4' for an 8mm drop, and the Max coming in at 46 in the heel, 40 in the 4' for a 6mm drop. So Sonicblast, a little bit higher drop, a little bit lighter. Meanwhile, the Hyperion Max, a little bit lower drop, a little bit heavier. Now from a fit perspective, I say both fit true to size lengthwise. Then I would say that the Sonicblast has a, you know, roomy to standard-ish toe box. I would say that it has a narrow midfoot and then a standard heel. Meanwhile, the Hyperion Max 3 comes in with a little bit more, I would say the toe box is actually wider than the Sonicblast. You can kind of see it there. Midfoot, I would say, is standard, and then a standard heel as well. Right, moving to the uppers are pretty different between these two shoes. So with the Hyperion Max 3, you kind of have this booty style upper. It's a breathable mesh upper, and you can see, like, again, booty, more sock light fit. So you kind of have this knit material coming through here in the ankle and tongue area, and then you have these breathable mesh overlays or paneling kind of throughout the toe box and the midfoot area. Now for the Hyperion Max 3, the lockdown is far superior to the Sonicblast in my opinion, mainly because you do have that booty fit. And then I would say that comfort is also leaning towards the Hyperion Max, right? Again, with the booty fit, the lockdown, you get a little bit of cushion on that, you know, in the lace area, and then as well in the heel area. For the Sonicblast, you have that engineered mesh or the breathable mesh. And the Sonicblast, the upper, just for whatever reason, didn't quite work for me in this heel and ankle area. I just found that the kind of that ankle collar was a little bit rigid, and it didn't really cause any blistering, but it did kind of dig into my ankle bone a little bit just right here, and that rigidity, it was a little bit of a sore spot for the shoe. Now past that though, the gusseted tongue still gives you a good lockdown in the midfoot. I found that the upper is probably more breathable to me than the Hyperion Max 3. I felt like the upper was a little bit warm due to kind of the booty style upper, and then there's like a weird amount of cushion in the tongue area of the Hyperion Max 3. And so neither uppers I was super impressed with, but I will say the Hyperion Max 3 one is a little bit more comfortable, at least to me. With the Sonicblast, it's a fairly simplistic upper, honestly. It's a little bit more daily trainer-esque. And then with the Hyperion Max, you get kind of like the comfort blended with a little bit of race-light kind of sleek build. So now moving to the midsoles, really interesting kind of setups for both of these midsoles. So I want to make sure I get this right. In the midsole with the Sonicblast, we have FF Turbo Squared, which is ATPU, and that is on the top layer. Then we have a plastic or P-Bax plate that runs through, and then FF Blast Max on the bottom layer, which is going to be a little bit firmer. Now, the FF Leap to me is supposed, or FF Turbo Squared is supposed to be a lot softer, but it is really, really noticeably firm to me in here, to the point where the FF Blast Max actually feels softer to me in comparison. That paired with the plate, now you get a very, very stable underfoot ride, but it is a pretty rigid, it's like one of the more rigid options out there, and it's a very firm feel underfoot. Ironically, it reminds me of the Hyperion Max 2, which because of the firmness and the snap was really good for short distances, but still gave you enough cushion to go long. And that's a little bit where the Sonicblast sits. With the Hyperion Max 3 though, it went a little bit more of that long run style, tempo style shoe where you have DNA Gold, which is the PIBA on top. Then you have DNA Flash underneath, which is a supercritical EVA, I believe, on the bottom. And then you do also have a plastic or P-Bax plate in between. And so still going to be rigid, but I find a little bit less rigid and a lot more cushioned or softer underfoot, right? With the Hyperion Max 3, the foam and plate setup, very, very similar between the two. It's just that the DNA Gold, to me, is significantly softer than this version of FF Turbo Squared. That may be a little bit confusing to some people because the FF Turbo Squared in the Mega Blast I found to be soft, but for whatever reason in the Sonicblast, it just didn't have that same squish to me. Now, again, stability, I give it to the Sonicblast, but then bounce and kind of comfort I give to the Hyperion Max 3. The other thing to note is the Hyperion Max 3 does have that midfoot cutout, right, on the medial side. And so personally, I did not have any issues with stability in the shoe. I found it to be a very stable option, right? But again, Sonicblast I feel like is more stable between the two overall. Now, as far as pace versatility, I don't love like longer, slower efforts with the Sonicblast. Hyperion Max 3, I think, is one of the more pace versatile shoes on the market. I think what holds it back most is the weight and maybe just the overall just kind of bulk of the shoe. The Sonicblast feels a little bit more nimble, does give you the protective feel underfoot, but it is fairly firm. So again, those slower efforts aren't gonna feel as nice to me, right? Hyperion Max 3 too, I feel like it surprisingly can pick up really, really well and handle short, fast intervals. The Sonicblast can as well, and the Sonicblast does feel more comfortable at faster efforts, but for me, I feel like the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 is significantly more pace versatile and comfortable at those various paces. So for me, I would consider racing up to a marathon in the Hyperion Max 3, but probably only down to a half. I wouldn't consider a 10K. 10K, I would maybe consider the Sonicblast, and that might be the sweet spot for it for me, in my opinion, right? Outsole wise, you have the Road Tack rubber for the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. It's a thicker outsole. I would have liked it to be a little bit thinner just to sacrifice a little bit of weight, but it does give you some good traction overall, and I didn't have any issues with this version, where the 2, I did have some slippage on kind of on wet track and whatnot. And then the Asics grip on the Sonicblast is, to me, leaves a little bit to be desired. It's better than something like on the novablast, but I felt like the traction pattern was not as aggressive as it could have been, and I feel like it's wearing away very, very quickly. So I do have some concerns there overall with the grip on the Sonicblast, but at least on dry road, it does the job just fine. So now, as far as my pick between the two, I think it is probably pretty obvious based on this comparison so far, but I lean the Hyperion Max 3. I feel like the Sonicblast kind of gets itself stuck like the Hyperion Max 2 did, where it's almost a tweener, right? It's not nimble enough and light enough to be a faster, more speed-oriented, like short interval style plated trainer, but it's not soft enough. It's too firm, too rigid, to me at least, to kind of go long, right? The Magic Speed 4 also had this issue for me, right? Meanwhile, the Hyperion Max 3, I feel like it has committed to being more of the long run shoe, right? But at the same time, all of a sudden it is more versatile and it can go a little bit faster, and it's more of kind of the cherry on top rather than messing with kind of the general feel of the shoe. So I do lean pretty heavily towards the Hyperion Max 3. Hyperion Max 3 might be my max cushion plated trainer this year of the year. I have to go back. The Neo Vista 2 is the other big contender, as well as the Prime Strong X3, Prime X3 Strong. I forget the order. So anyway, but yeah, just some final thoughts. This is a category that I think is really difficult for a brand to nail, honestly. Like, I think very, very few brands have nailed the max cushion Supertrainer style shoe, just because it gets really heavy the more foam you add in. Also on top of that, you know, you're a lot of times not going carbon fiber plate. You're maybe not using a huge slab of the best foam, but only maybe a dual density version or setup. And there's just so many factors that can complicate it that I just think it's really difficult. I think the Hyperion Max 3 is a really, really good option though for that. And I do think that brands hopefully are going to continue to invest in this category because I think it's a slightly more affordable, but also more durable and potentially more versatile option that many people can buy to use for races, but also get lots of training miles in the shoes as well. So if you watched this far, I sure appreciate you. Let me know in the comments what questions you have about the shoes, what I could be doing better. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and turn on those notifications. And if you'd like to support the channel, please consider using any of the affiliate links in the description below. I have a link to Fuel Good, so if you're going to be buying some running fuel anyway, please consider using RadDad at checkout. You'll get 10% off. Or if you need any tights, whether that's long tights for winter or half tights for your race, my favorite are the Wallaco Distance Half Tights, which have plenty of storage, and RadDad 20 gets you 20% off as well. So now to wrap up, I'll leave you with a question, which is, what has been your favorite long run shoe in 2025? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks everybody.